For those of us who are highly sensitive, and those of us who are committed to being high functioning, highly sensitives, who know that we have an impact to make in some way, this is our it moment. Write that down. Do you want your mark, what you leave energetically on this planet, to be of fear, worry, overprotection? Or do you want your mark to be of trust, worth, and collaboration? Legacy. According to the Webster Dictionary, a thing intentionally handed down by a predecessor. A thing intentionally handed down by a predecessor. Legacy. What we are each meant to leave to this world. And legacy doesn't mean something huge. It doesn't mean something big in regards to materialistic, physical world terms. When I think of legacy, I always think of the story that I've heard Oprah Winfrey tell more than once, when she was having a conversation with Maya Angelou when she was first establishing her school for girls in Africa. And she said to Maya Angelou, "This school is going to be my legacy." And Maya responded to her and said, "You don't even know what your legacy is meant to be." We're going to take a moment to begin to connect into this legacy energy for you. So take out your journal if you haven't had it out already. And we're going to go into auto writing together. So take a moment and take your non-writing hand and place it on your heart. And take a moment and then close your eyes. And take a moment and take in a breath. Breath in and let it out. And eyes closed and hand on heart. Feeling in this moment your ability to connect in, calling on that greater force, higher self, source, God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, universe, whatever language speaks to you. Allowing yourself to instantly connect in. Knowing that together, no matter where we are in the world right now, we are all immediately dialing in. And together we ask, what am I meant to leave as my legacy? What am I meant to leave as my legacy? And as the guidance comes through, pick up your pen, open your eyes, write what you receive without question. What am I meant to leave as my legacy? Breath in and let it out. Next question. What will I need to let go of in order to leave this legacy? What will I need to let go of in order to leave this legacy? Hand on heart. Pick up pen. Allow that greater force to write through you without question. Breath in and let it out. Allowing yourself to wrap up if you're still writing. From here, where I want to take us is beginning to make the connection between that clarity, deep knowing, legacy, and what that means as a highly sensitive leader. The 4 types of leadership power. This handout will be in your online learning center. Don't feel like you have to panic and try to get all these notes down. What does highly sensitive leadership mean? If we're going to become clear about highly sensitive leadership, then it also makes sense to look at the overall broad definition of leadership. In a lot of psychological and sociological teachings on leadership, there is what's referred to as the 4 types of power. So we can't look at leadership without looking at power. The 4 types of power: power over, power with, power to, and power within. What I want to highlight for our purposes when it comes to anchoring our strengths in order to be able to boldly lead is I want to first look at power over. Because as I've started to talk about highly sensitive leadership and how this is very much what's going to be needed in order to continue to navigate and thrive, I've heard at various times through members in the community of like, oh, I'm not really a leader. And when I hear that, what stands out to me is that power over tends to be the default definition of leadership. That most of us grew up understanding, experienced in some way, whether it was in our family of origin, whether it was in our upbringing and within the school system, or early on in careers. Where highly sensitive leadership truly resides is within the combinations of power with, power to, and power within. The guiding principles then brings us to look at where we're being called as highly sensitives and specifically what we're being called to let go of and what we're being called to let in, so that we can truly step into embracing power within, and power to. This handout also in your online learning center. But here's what I really want to share with you that's really important for us is first to acknowledge that what often keeps us from being willing to let go is fear of the unknown, fear that we will be abandoned and left alone, and fear that we won't be able to handle it. But if there's anything I really learned from my double move pandemic experience, is that when we are really pushed to the edge, what's waiting for us is a deeper level of true sense of being connected and provided for than we're ever able to experience when we try to take care of the overprotecting and by distancing and isolating all on our own. You are not alone. But even though we are in various aspects across the world, we have an incredible community connection. We have an incredible community connection of shared strengths. We have an incredible community connection of courage. We have an incredible community connection of creativity. And we have an incredible community connection of determination and commitment to innovation and leadership through these times. It's why we're here today, because each and every one of you, to some degree, has at least the understanding, if not the deep knowing, whether it's coming to you in that whisper or more strongly and more determinedly, that is calling you forward to change, calling you forward to let go of what it is that you're meant to let go of. And we come here together in community because there is the shared transformational language. This is a place where you can come outside of your day to day and actually intentionally set aside your day to day for a strong container amount of time to be able to look within and to have a deeper experience of inquiry and understanding and knowing, so that you can then go back into your day to day, changed, transformed, different, ready to be able to show up and affect that change, as Martin Luther King said, to be able to achieve purpose and affect change. And the other piece that I really want to emphasize about that in regards to why we come together, even when virtually, is because, especially as highly sensitive, it is unrealistic to expect those who we love in our everyday life to be the sole ones to support us through this process. Not only is it unrealistic, it's actually unfair, and open up your ears for this one, disrespectful. It's disrespectful. It's, first of all, to show up is respect, not only for yourself, but for those who are in the day to day of your life that you love and they love you. We put these unrealistic expectations on our spouses, on our partners, on our children, on our families, on our friends, on our neighbors. Unrealistic, unfair, and disrespectful. But here is a place where you are intentionally welcomed in to a safe environment to be able to inquire into questions such as, what is your legacy? What are you meant to let go of? So that you can let in a new experience, where you can have eyes and ears and hearts on you to remind you, as RBG said, it's not necessarily what I want, but I'm actually getting what I'm meant to have, and then how to work with that. Power with, power to, power within. If we are to affect change as highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders, then we must be willing to be in the process of mastering change. And to be in the process of mastering change is survival versus change. Please write that down. If you have a growth mindset, challenges provide new opportunities to change and grow. But if you have a survival mindset, you try to avoid challenges. Another way of saying that is, if you are able to anchor into your highly sensitive strength of creativity, then challenges provide new opportunities to change and grow. You will use your strength of creativity to innovate. But if you have, if you are stuck in only coping as a highly sensitive, then you will try to avoid challenges. And you will continuously experience the shadows of overprotection and overwhelm. There's a quote that I want to share with you from Carol Osborne from the book, The Art of Resilience, 100 Paths to Wisdom and Strength in an Uncertain World. And what she says is, crisis occurs when our theories about ourselves in relation to the outside world go fundamentally wrong. It is the dissonance between our expectations and our outcomes that causes the pain, not the outcome alone. Foremost among our expectations is our belief that pain is something to be avoided at all costs, that it's bad for you. Suffering does not fit our theory about what it takes to succeed in life. And so we fail to concede that pain is inevitable in each of our lives. Which speaks to the highly sensitive limiting belief of, I won't be able to handle it. Operating under the limiting belief that we actually should be able to avoid pain. With so much of the work that I do with the Business Miracles team, and especially the coach team, is I work with them to expect discomfort as part of the process of mastery. And if a team member doesn't have the ability to manage discomfort, that shows me that they don't have the ability or interest in growth. And if they don't have the ability or interest in growth, then they cannot be a part of the Business Miracles team. My expectation is not that any of the members show up perfect. My expectation is discomfort resilience. So I want us to take a look at a few handouts that you also received in your online learning center. First, our Shadows to Strengths handout. So reminder in this handout is these are paths from the top 3 shadows of over responsibility, over protection, and overwhelm into the strengths of empathy, intuition, and creativity. What I want to emphasize here is it is literally impossible to leave a consciously created legacy from an experience, a consistent experience of over responsibility, over protection, and overwhelm. What I also want to highlight is the path is a path, meaning it is a process. We don't necessarily always have the ability to jump from shadow to strength. However, the more that we engage in the process, then the faster the process moves. And then it feels like lightning speed that we're able to go from overwhelm to victim to creator to creativity, or same for any of the other shadow strength pathways. Now bring up the reactions to change. And you'll see here that I've highlighted confusion. What will trap us from actually being able to manage and master change, to then be able to affect change, is when we swirl ourselves in confusion, especially when the answer that we're looking for isn't immediate. The opportunity is that when we find ourselves unsure, uncertain, confused, questioning, that we don't use that to dip us down into depression and crisis, but we use that as a trigger, as an awakening, as an opportunity to be touched and reminded to go into utilizing the tools, utilizing inquiry, utilizing the community, the coach team, myself as your mentor, to be able to access acceptance more quickly than they were strengths, higher level of self-esteem, confidence, and an experience of that deep, again, knowing and joy. And then if we can go to the attachment styles, specifically looking first at anxious and preoccupied, being overly sensitive to others' actions and moods. and then avoidant, dismissing, avoiding conflict, and then disorganized and unresolved, disassociating to avoid pain. And when we are in the secure attachment style, then we have access to trust. Now, how does one shift or change their attachment style? Through the use consistently of the tools. And then a reminder that there are 4 types of leadership power. And that power with is about collaboration. Power to is unique potential of every person. And power within is self-knowledge. And I really want to bring our attention to self-knowledge, because that, again, is the use of the tools. That use of inquiry to know more of yourself. And then back to attachment style brings us to secure attachment, which brings us to trust, back to reactions to change, which brings us to acceptance and confidence in any situation more quickly, back to the shadow strengths pathway, which allows us to shift from shadow to strength more quickly. One more time, back to 4 types of leadership power. So what would keep us from self-knowledge? The unwillingness to let go. Write that down. So being a highly sensitive leader is being a master of change.